Okay, so let's get started. As promised on Facebook, I want to go a little bit more mystical. How many of you are brand new to us? Okay, first of all, great. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So, what's all the water? Good question. Okay. I didn't notice. Okay. All right, so just a quick note then on what the water is. This particular weekend, according to the Kabbalists, is the most powerful healing weekend of the year, which means the energy of healing is being broadcast from the cosmos. Because like the sun broadcasts its physical energy, so too the endless world, or the light of the Creator, broadcasts in different frameworks each week. I mean, let's be objective. Is there any 2 weeks in your life that feel, look, or act the same? No. Not just because of the physical things that happen, but also the energy that's coming from the cosmos. So as each week progresses, there's a different energy. So what we do on this particular weekend, we charge up the Kabbalah water with this special healing energy. And that's why this water is distinguished from what's usually called Kabbalah water. This is called Pinchas water, because that's the name of this particular energy. So that's what we're doing for the weekend, actually for the week, is letting it sit here in this energy of love, unconditional love, kindness, and compassion. And particularly, we had all the people who've joined us, and you can also be doing the same thing, just to infuse water with that energy of healing. Because this will then go around the world to different centers around the world, and people who are in different states of physical ailment to be drinking the water and having that healing reawakening. Because remember, we're actually going to mention it a little here, we're already perfect. Healing is the natural state. Health and vitality is our natural state of existence. So it's unnatural for us to be sick. So then we're just helping people get back to their natural state, and water is one of the most powerful ways. And those of you who have been studying in the more physical level, this Dr. Emoto, who passed away a while ago, I think a year ago, something like that, he was here about 3 weeks before he passed. But he was showing us, if you haven't seen it, how water is one of the easiest things to hold energy. So what we're doing is just putting healing energy and the unconditional love of all the people in this particular weekend, and that's what this water is for, to hold that energy. Okay. Great. If you'd like, actually behind the wall there, we have about another 40 pallets of water. Right? But if you're interested, you can ask in the bookstore, because starting tomorrow it's going to be sent out to the other centers around the world. So we have some allocated for us, and if you'd like to inquire or obtain that, you can do that also in the bookstore. Okay, so let's get back to this. So as promised in Facebook, what I want to talk about is how do we contact departed souls? How do we contact, let's call it the dead? All right? Don't get scared, especially the new people. I was a little concerned, you know, he started talking like that. Uh-oh, what did my friend tell me to come to? But let's talk about it. So let's understand what the soul is, right? We all understand there is a soul, but we're not always sure exactly what it is. Is it a piece of God? It's not a piece of God. What does it have? What does it do? Is it good, bad, what have you? So just fundamentally, what the Kabbalists share with us, God created humanity, every human being, as a soul. The body is not the real us. The body is the vehicle that we use to carry the soul to do its work in this world. So what the Creator created in the upper worlds, in what we call the endless world, is our soul. But what is the soul really now, in detail? It's a container. Conscious, aware, yes, it has consciousness, it thinks, etc., but it's a container. And what does it contain? It contains the infinite light of the Creator. And therefore, all the blessings, all the attributes, all the power, all the things that the Creator can do, we have that power in us. And that's why the Bible says we're created in the image and likeness of God, which means not physically, but spiritually. So let me ask you, any of you have children? Yes. You ever wish or bless or pray for your children to be good and healthy and grow up well, etc., etc.? What empowers you to do that? On what basis are we as parents doing that? Or just friends to friends? Or just people like you and I, spiritual people, to every human being on earth? What gives us the power and the ability to be able to bless or pray for other people? The fact that we have the light inside of us. So then all we have to do is be like a big giant flashlight turn on the light inside of us, which is what we're going to do here at the end of this morning, and then shine it on everybody, just like a flashlight. That's it. So our soul is the container that's filled with this endless light of God and all the powers therein. Now, if you look in your Bible carefully, it says that we've been given free will. Right? What does free will mean? It means, at minimum, we have a choice. We cannot be forced to express the light of our soul. We cannot be forced. We have the free will to let our light shine or not let it shine. Our purpose in this world is to let it shine 100% of the time. But we have to exercise free will to do that. So we have to make effort to share our light, which is why when we affirm, we don't just say love, compassion, and kindness to all our family and friends and our loved ones. It's to all human beings. Because we don't grow as spiritual beings until we can bless, wish well, send light, pray for the people we don't get along with or the people we may not like. Because there's no growth. Same old means same old. If you don't go to the gym or whatever exercise you do, you're not going to grow physiologically. And if you go to the gym and you take a piece of paper like this and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're not going to grow either. There has to be some exertion of force, of energy. So spiritually, for us to grow, we have to exert the light of the Creator that's already inside of us in an effort to send light, to wish well, or to pray for the people we don't get along with or we don't like. And I always bring up, it doesn't mean that you have to call them up and go out with them, go to coffee, have them over for dinner, go to their house, but you have to send light to every person. Because what goes around comes around. So as more light goes out of you, then the more light comes back to you. The more you're wishing everybody health, peace, love, and prosperity from the Creator's light, then the more the world will come to peace and harmony. When it's wishing somebody prosperity, let's say, from the physical world, then that usually means taking it from someone else. So that won't necessarily create peace and harmony. But if we understand the Creator is infinite and already set out everything we need, everything we could ever want, because it gave us 100% light, which contains the root energy for everything we could ever imagine that would totally bliss us out. And that's our purpose in this world, to express and manifest the light of our soul, so we will manifest that 100% bliss. And once we're at 100%, how much more can we do? That's it. 100% is 100%. We'll be completely happy, at peace, serene, with everyone and everything. And that's our goal. But free will, going back to that, means we have the choice not to. We have the choice to be the opposite of love, compassion, and kindness. We can be angry, we can have resentment, we can have greed, we can let our egos run away with us, we can be self-centered, we can be jealous of what other people have, and I want to take it from them because they don't deserve it. We can go on all those ways. Now, what happens when we do that? Because even as science has come to validate thousands of years of Kabbalistic teaching, every action has an equal reaction. So then for every action of egocentric behavior, anger, fear, jealousy, greed, etc., what the Kabbalists teach us is we put a curtain over the light of our soul. It's as if we have a light bulb. If I bring a desk lamp and I turn it on, it illuminates, yes? If I take a blanket and I put the blanket over the desk lamp, did the light itself go out? No, but I've covered it up, so from our point of view, we don't see the light. But the light is still there. As I pull away the cover, the blanket, now the light shines again. So then every time a person does one of those negative acts, they put a curtain, a layer of separation between them and the light of their soul, them and the bliss and the harmony and all the good blessings the Creator already gave. So that's why people feel angry, hurt, resentful, and it tends to grow, doesn't it? You get a little bit of short-tempered at somebody, and what starts to happen once that first curtain goes? Now you start to see more reasons to be more angry, and maybe angry at other people, and a little more resentment, so it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. Right? People add those curtains. What we're learning here is how to take away the curtains by acting in its opposite, with love, compassion, kindness, generosity, forgiveness, etc., towards everybody, because it's good for us. Not just that it's good for them, it's good for us. Now, the thickest curtain, I mean, imagine if you keep adding up more and more and more of those curtains until the curtain is like this wall behind us. Can you and I see through that wall? No. Oh, good. Okay. Scary. Somebody's going to say yes. So that wall is thick enough that we can't see through it. So for all intents and purposes, from our practical point of view, if I say, turn around and look at those pallets of water that are in that other room, you say to me, Chaim, there's nothing there. There's no such thing. But there is if you go over there. But it's this curtain, this wall that doesn't let us see it. So the thickest curtain of illusion is called death. When there's a thick enough curtain that the person has truly hidden the light of their soul, then they move to that other side. That's why we say passed on. People have passed on. What do you mean passed on? It's like when a person walked out this door, they passed into the bookstore. So that door then becomes like that thick curtain we will call death, that we don't see them anymore. And if we stayed here and they stayed there, when would we ever see them again? Only if we go there, but we wouldn't see them if we're here for the next 20 years and they're there for the next 20 years. So similarly with this thing we call death, the soul is immortal. The soul doesn't die. The body drops like the soul, like when I go home and I take off my jacket. Am I still the same person? Thanks for your vote of confidence. That's great. Okay, good. Right? I'm the same with the jacket without the jacket. So in essence, when a person leaves the world, we say die, they've removed that clothing called the physical body. But their soul is immortal. Their soul continues on. That's why, as we're going to speak about, we can still see them, feel them, touch them. I had a student when I was in LA. Tragic story. And I'm not trying to dismiss the idea of passing on or not seeing them or the grief or what have you. But we need to hold in our mind that they're not gone. Because as we affirm, consciousness is everything. And as we'll shift our consciousness, then even the dead won't be dead. They will still be alive here with us more than they may be right now. So I had a student years ago in LA when I was teaching there. Her son, 28 years old, went into the bathroom, had some kind of hemorrhage, stroke, whatever it was, fell, hit his head on the sink, died. You can imagine her grief. But a week later, after the funeral, she says she was walking outside her house and she saw him in her driveway, leaning on his favorite car, the Camaro, with a big smile. And all she could feel was he was saying to her, Mom, I'm okay. Mom, I'm all right. Now, does that change the fact that he's passed, that she may not see him physically? No. But it certainly gave her a greater sense of peace and serenity, and it alleviated her grief, just knowing that he's okay. I've often told people when I unfortunately had to do a funeral, think of that loved one coming to you before they pass. They come to you and they say, you know what? I've just decided I haven't done this ever, and I'm really excited to do this. I'm going to go on a worldwide tour. I'm just going to pick up, I'm going to take my backpack, and I'm going to go everywhere around the world that I wanted to go. And it may take me 20 years, but I want you to know I'm going to have an amazing time. I'm going to have a great time. So even though for 20 years you may not see them, but you know in essence they're having a great time because they're doing what they want. So in the same way, like this woman saw her son, for whatever reason he left when he was 28, but his soul moves on and continues. If you go to the Bible, there's stories like that. King Saul called up the soul of Samuel the prophet because he needed from Samuel some answers from this prophet. So it's not an unusual idea. It's just unfamiliar to many of us. That's all. When my mother died in 77 and I started on my spiritual path, I remember I saw a show that was based here in Florida. It was based on a true story. One of the airlines had a plane that went down. Something was going wrong with the engine and it went down in the Florida Everglades. But the navigator of the plane had gone into the belly of the plane to try and fix something, whatever it was, when it crashed in the Everglades. So the story goes that his soul, his ghost, if you will, his spirit, was seen in every plane that parts of that crashed plane went to. So if they took a piece of the engine, let's say, out of that crashed plane, and they put it in this other plane, there were people who saw the image of this navigator on that plane. So I'm watching the show, I'm at my house by myself, me and my dog, and I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I can ask my mom to come. Because this was about a year after my mom passed. So I'm in my house by myself with my dog, and I kind of look out there and I go, okay, Mom, if you hear me, come show yourself. And then in a flash, I start to envision, well, what would happen if she actually showed up in front of me? I would probably faint. You know, even though I know it's my mom and I could see her, but I would probably faint from the experience, especially this being new to me at that time. So I immediately said, no, Mom, don't show up. Just like give me a sign that you're around. You understand? It was my limitation. Do I look back and have regret? Yes, sometimes I do, because I wish I had seen her. But I have to tell you that in all the years I've been doing what I do here in the center, because she was the impetus for me to move out of heading in a direction of being a medical doctor to being a spiritual doctor, I believe that because of that work, that she was the impetus, and therefore I'm always wishing her well and talking to her, as we're going to speak about. I believe that she's always with me. So I may not see her, but things she taught me, things she said, every once in a while I feel like her presence. And just like I did when she was here physically, sometimes I look and say, no. Go already. Yeah, I heard that. Because you don't want to hear everything all the time. But she's always there. She's always there. So then you and I can come to that understanding that we have the ability to speak to our loved ones. We have the ability to contact them because they don't disappear. The same way that we can think of them, as we understand their soul is immortal, then they can also think of us, can they not? What's the difference? If you go out in the bookstore, the other side of those doors, can you think of us in here? Yes or yes? Can we think of you out there? Yes or yes? Exactly. And can we stay? So if I know you, I can say, oh, you know, I can almost see what you're doing out there. So the same with my parents. I can almost see what they're doing because I knew them here. So I understand what they're doing there, and yet even higher. Because as we all evolve spiritually, so too when a person leaves the world, they also evolve spiritually. They move on. The thing is now, here's the key. When a person leaves the physical body, they look back. They look back and they see what their life was entailed. They see the good things they did, they see the bad things they did, they see the people that they helped, they see the people that they hurt. Even their loved ones. Tell me you don't have a loved one that you really love dearly that's never said or done something that temporarily hurt your feelings or made you upset. Ever happen? Yes. Okay, but what do? If you really love them, what do? You make up, you discuss it, you work it out, you talk about it, you forgive, you cry, you hug, you kiss, whatever it is, but you make up for it because you love them. So the same thing I want to understand today, that those people who've passed on to the other side, they're just as alive because it's not the body that we loved. It's not the physicality that we were looking to have with us. It's what they brought, their humor, their happiness, the lessons they taught us, the things they did for us, the ability for us to do for them, etc. So now, and here's an important key. You need to, and truly, if you want, which I know that's why you're here, to grow and to move on, you need to speak with them. Speak with them. But when you speak with them, as I shared with you, when they look back, they see clearly, because they're not limited by the body anymore. They see the things that they may have done to you that hurt your feelings, intended or unintended. Happens sometimes. I'll say something without bad intent, but maybe it hurts the feelings of my wife or my children or one of my friends or my students. I don't mean it that way, but maybe they feel hurt and they don't say a word to me, but they move on. So then imagine those people who've passed on, that maybe we have something that we want to tell them, or maybe something that they see they've done to us. So I tell every person that I can speak with, and that's why I'm telling you, it's essential that you speak to them, but when you speak to them, you have to tell them everything. Like, I'll tell you the other side. For my mother, when my parents got divorced, my mother lived in the house I grew up in, and my father lived in another house. So I remember I was living at school. I was in the dorms in college. So when I'd come home to visit, my father had just moved into this house, and I got along with both of them. But being insensitive and not thinking at that time, I went to my mom's house, which was the house I grew up, and I took a couple pieces of furniture from my room to take to my father's house. So when I was staying at my father's house, I would have furniture there. Years later, after she passed, I realized how insensitive that was, because it hurt her feelings. Did she say anything to me? No. But it was like, almost like I was siding with my father versus her type of thing. So when I came to Kabbalah and I understood what I'm sharing with you, so I had to speak to her. And I told her, I said, I realized what I did, and I apologized profusely. I prayed for her, I sent her light, etc., but I had to tell her what went on. The same thing, I also had to tell her the times that she hurt me. Because what happens if we don't? And this for me is the sad part. It's not just about telling them off or anything like that, but if you're holding on to something that's still bothering you about them, then you're being blocked. And if they're on the other side looking back and seeing that they said something that hurt your feelings that you're still holding on, it's also blocking them. The same way it's blocking us, it's blocking them. So when you speak to them, it's important that you tell them the good and the bad. I hated you at that moment, I resented you at that moment, whatever it is. But now, I forgive you, I apologize, I'm letting go, and I'm sending you light, I'm praying for you and wishing you well so that you can move on and I can move on. It's very important. Otherwise, we're anchored down. And when you try these things and you make this effort, then suddenly you start to see the transformation. You feel better, and I'll promise you at least once, some of you maybe more, you'll start to feel their presence at least once or hear their voice, because you've made that curtain thinner. And just like if we were to shave this wall and keep shaving it layer by layer, at some point it's going to be thin enough that we could perceive at least light through it, at least a little bit of illumination, and maybe the shapes of what's on the other side there. So in the same way, as we're removing and shaving down those curtains, we will begin to have a greater sense of that person. Whatever it may be, they move on, you'll move on. And so it's very important that we work to let go like that. I have a student here in Boca was telling me the story recently. In her marriage, her husband was always the strong one, the fearless one, and she was the one who was always fearful. Well, tragically, he died in Iraq, but she said, all of a sudden, she was fearless. Nothing made her fearful from that point forward, because that communication brought his energy to her, because the soul remains, it continues on, and it gave her the strength to be for their children, to be strong, and for her to be fearless. So those things will happen. I believe from my mother and my father, I've had added strength since they've left the world. To do what I do, to hear what I hear, to fix what I need to fix. And the same way, whatever I need to tell them, I've told them. And some of those things I've shared with you, the different experiences that have come to me. But if we don't do it, we're blocked. So yes, I know it's not always comfortable, and I was a little hesitant, but I knew it's something essential and very beneficial to bring up. We need to think of those loved ones, because then, in Kabbalah, the word for love, which is ahava, is numerically 13. The word for unity, echad, is also 13. So the thing that connects us to our loved ones is love. When you love them and they love you, then that distance and that curtain shrinks. And whether you'll see them physically, you'll hear them, or you'll just constantly have that sense that they're with you, supporting you, helping you, they will be there guiding you. Because think about it, if they are loved ones, when they leave the world and they're not limited by the body anymore, yes, they have their own evolution. They have to grow spiritually also, but they have the ability to also help us, to be guides, to be advocates, to help us. That's why I'm sure we all, in some moment, when we're about to do something not so pleasant, not so nice, you hear that voice of whoever it may be, your mother, your father, or brother, sister, whoever. You hear that little voice, I wouldn't do that, or whatever they would say to you. It comes back with that phrase, and you hear it. And at that moment, you have the strength. Abraham's nephew was caught in a challenging situation without all the details. The soul of his uncle came to him to give him strength to withstand and overcome that challenge. So we have that capability. It is there. That's the most important thing I want you to understand today. The soul doesn't disappear. Your loved ones don't disappear. They'll be with you forever, even as they move on and whatever they move on into in their spiritual growth. But like the soul of my mother and my father, they're always my mother and my father, no matter what they will do. Your parents, your family, your friends who may have moved on, the same thing. That peace will always be with you. It's the love that creates unity. The whole center is based on that. In 1962, Rav Berg, our teacher, my teacher, met his Kabbalistic master, Rav Brandwein. 1962. They learned together, and Rav Brandwein passed on all the secrets of Kabbalah to Rav Berg, that he would be able to take over the Kabbalah center and bring this wisdom to the masses. In 1969, when Rav Brandwein passed from this world, the love they had between them, as the Rav often said, Rav Berg, he says, once my teacher left the physical world, he never had to leave me. Because Rav Berg was in America, Rav Brandwein was in Israel. So in the physical world, it was either over the phone or by letters. That's how they communicated. Once Rav Brandwein left the world, then he was able to stay with Rav Berg forever. In 2013, when Rav Berg left the physical world, Karen Berg received, according to you could see it on the horoscope, she received an infusion of a piece of the Rav's soul that changed her spiritual makeup. Because that's how Kabbalists work. They will be here for us. The Zohar itself came into existence that way. 2,000 years ago, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai was in Meron in the north of Israel for 13 years in a cave. And it says for those 13 years, the soul of Moses and the soul of Elijah the prophet came to visit, to teach Rav Shimon Bar Yochai all the wisdom of the Zohar that Moses got on Mount Sinai. So there's plenty of precedent for this. There's plenty of stories that we can hear about. The key is today, are you willing to open your mind and your heart to remember those loved ones and be willing to remove those curtains by saying whatever you have to say, good or bad. Apologize for what you did. They're forgiving you, I guarantee you. When you telling them off what they did that hurt you, etc., and then forgive them, I guarantee you that they are relieved, and so will you be. And that's the key, because love is the thing that brings us all together. And in a similar way, and I just want to toss it out there quickly, a piece of our soul, those curtains, even between you and me, how many of you feel blissed out right now? Or in your life in general? 100%. Exactly, none of us. Why not? If the Creator gave us 100%, then somehow these curtains have also been hiding and disconnecting us from a piece of our soul, a piece of our good, a piece of our prosperity, love, protection, whatever it is that we feel we're missing. So in a very micro way, that's also an aspect of death, isn't it? A part of my soul's light is missing from me because of this curtain of whatever it may be, actions of anger, actions of judgment, actions of ego, whatever. So then in the same way I have to talk to my mother and my father or people who passed on, and I encourage you to do it, then the same way I have to talk to that piece of my soul. And I have to connect with it because I know it didn't disappear. The Creator gave every one of us 100%, so that's with us forever. The issue because of free will is, do I contact it or I do not contact it? That's the key. So whatever we feel is missing, it's sitting waiting. I told somebody last week, look in the mirror at least 3 times a day and tell the person you see in the mirror, you are a pure and perfect being of light. Because this person feels so not light-filled that he's just like a bump on the log. His wife bothers him, his kids bother him, everything bothers him in life. But you can see him, he walks around like the walking dead. We have terms for that, don't we? Zombies. And people walk around this world like that. But we have to know and we have to keep awakening. We also have the light 100% inside of us. So the same way we have to talk to the departed loved ones, we also have to talk to the piece of us that we're not connected with. Because it's all the same. Light is light. The more I will contact the light in my soul and the more I will contact the light in my loved ones, then the more light I have to share with you and everybody else. Because the Creator gave me and you 100%. Gave us enough to share with everybody and be missing nothing. That's what we want to hold on to. There's that little voice in our head that says, no, if I share too much with other people, or if I give away too much, or if I do too much for others, I won't have for me. But the flow from the endless world, the flow from God doesn't stop. So as long as we're an open channel and an open conduit, we'll always be filled. You know, it's funny, they have these, you ever see, I just started looking at it, someone told me about them, these hoses. You ever seen these hoses? You know, because now they give advertising. The big hose is too bulky and everything else. So these hoses that like shrink, right? And when you turn on the water, it expands 25 feet, 50 feet, whatever it is. As long as the water is flowing through it, it remains at its fullest. Once you stop flowing the water through it, then it shrinks back up. So the same with us. Have no fear in sharing your love, your compassion, your kindness, forgiveness, tolerance with everybody, even the people you don't like. Because the more you share it, then the more full you will be. The more of your 100% you will be. And of all the times in the world that we need to be 100%, it's now. We need more of the spiritual people to be shining brighter light, because then we will all become those beacons of light for the people out there who don't see their way. That they're caught, covered up in a spiritual blanket, that all they can see is self-centeredness, selfishness, violence, anger, etc. But once you and I can help take those curtains away, and they realize they have the light of the Creator inside them, then guess what? Then they're going to start acting like the God-like being that they are. They're going to start changing their behavior, and that's what peace on earth is made up of. We're not waiting for God to create peace on earth. God is waiting for us to get the message that it's in our hands. So today is the day, one, to reawaken those dead parts of us. Be in contact with the part of you that is more loving, more kind. Make an effort starting today to commit yourself to be more God-like. That's simple. If somebody curses God, you think God curses them back? If a person curses God, doesn't believe in God, God's still sending them 100%. Because that's the nature of the Creator, that we are here to become. So then the same way, people like you, don't like you, doesn't make a difference. I want all the light, I want to be blissed out, then it's my obligation to share my light with everybody. Unconditional love. So today is the day to commit ourselves to be more God-like, act more God-like toward the people in this world, and then commit yourself to love your loved ones so much that you're willing to tell them on the other side over there what they did, what you did, but you love them, you forgive, you apologize, that you remove the barriers. And then make sure that you find other loved ones here that you tell the same thing. Make sure at least 3 people this week that you explain this idea, because I'm sure somewhere, somehow, whether it's to their own soul or it's to someone who's passed on, even if it's just a friend. It doesn't have to be a parent or what have you. It can be just friends also that they cared for, that they miss. And so imagine now we start to touch all those lives, and you've got more people, 3 more people this week because of you. Explain this idea of speaking out towards those people, because the love is the key. Love is what will unite us. And love is the only thing that will bring heaven on earth as a reality in our physical world. And it's up to you and me. God bless.